This is the Louie T Network. You are now officially in the lab room. It's that time again. It's that time again to go hard in the off season, cause we trying to win. We gon' go so hard, we don't take no days off. Hopefully one day it's all gonna pay off.
Hey yo, who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where your man Louie T aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2017 NFL Draft using our baseball grading scale, single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series. We cannot tell how these players are going to pan out, and I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so we'll get a grade for each and every single player selected in said team's draft. We will apply bonuses when necessary, tally up all the scores, and get an aggregate for all those players selected. We'll then divide by the number of picks, which will then yield us an overall grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the series picked by you, the viewer. That's right. You are in total control, as this is the You Pick format, or as I like to call it, the Up format. Simply be the first to leave a comment in the comment section of this and future videos in this series stating two things: the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. It's really simple, okay? Quick example: Cowboys next, boys next, Cowboys next, Cowboys, Dallas next. You get the picture. Make it quick, make it efficient, don't get cute, because again, these comments are coming up extremely fast. I'm talking about within seconds of the video being uploaded. And let me just give you a little bit of a disclaimer. Don't send me, okay, screenshots of you being first. Okay, YouTube does a really good job of telling me who got the comment up first. Everyone's screen looks the same when you get up there initially. No views, okay, no comments, and you think you're first. YouTube does a good job. Don't take the time to screenshot me. Just be the first person to get the comment up. So just do it as fast as possible, and I'll let you know who YouTube declared the winner when it's all said and done. So with that being said, let's jump into the next team in the draft wrap-up series. And I'll tell you what, this was a controversial draft by the Bears. That's right, the Chicago Bears. And this is a fascinating draft, a very concise, compacted draft. Only 5 selections made. And when you make some of the shrewd moves that they made in this draft, you're not going to have a lot of draft picks. But again, when you get your guy, when you feel the need to get your guy, you'll never hear me beat you up for doing so. And this is a big one for GM Ryan Pace of the Chicago Bears, because if this is one of those drafts that will get you fired. Either he will be a long-time GM for the Bears for years to come because of the move he made in this draft, or he'll be a scapegoat for why the Bears are struggling a decade from now, and he'll be long gone, and they'll be talking about this draft for years to come. Either way, they'll be talking about this draft for years to come in the Windy City. That is for certain. Let's jump into it quickly. We start with the blockbuster trade of the 2017 NFL Draft. I always say that you don't really start the draft until you get a curveball. Well, we got a curveball with the second selection in the 2017 NFL Draft as the Chicago Bears, the Bears, trade up from the 3rd pick in the draft. We'll only move up 1 spot, but the ripple effect and the waves sent through the draft after this selection was made and after this trade was made was game-changing. We were in the 1st round, 2nd overall pick. The Chicago Bears select North Carolina quarterback Mitchell Trubisky. I'm not going to break him down. Obviously, already done him in the Draft Prospects 101 series. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, please, by all means, do so. It's in my archives. You want to go and get there quickly, go to my playlist, find the 2017 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series, and then you'll find the Mitchell Trubisky breakdown. But nonetheless, I will quickly say that Ryan Pace, this is one of those picks where he better be right. Okay, I don't have any problems with what he did. I felt like this was a great opportunity for Longneck, okay? Coming over from Tampa Bay, I felt like he had all of the confidence that he needed instilled in him by this Bears organization. Of course, I'm talking about Mike Glennon, your free agent acquisition on the first day of free agency. You go out and you get a quarterback that you feel like can solidify the quarterback position for you. You pay him some good money in free agency to come over and be your starter. It wasn't a deal that was going to handicap the Bears. Only 3 years, right around $50 million, give or take a couple mil south because it was in the 40s. But nonetheless, it was a deal that was a good deal for the Bears that would gauge whether Glennon could get it done at a starter's clip or not. And it was also an opportunity for a guy who really didn't get a fair shake in the league to become a starter to get his chance to prove if he could, in fact, be that type of quarterback in this league or not. Bottom line is the Bears were just absolutely blown away by Mitchell Trubisky throughout this process. I don't know what he did. I don't know because, again, the body of work is 13 games. That's it. One collegiate season of being a starter for Mitchell Trubisky. So the tape must have floored them. His personality, his knowledge, everything, the entire Mitchell Trubisky package must have blown the Bears away to make the move because, again, you already have a quarterback that you've signed that you perceive to be the starter going into the season. To make a move for a rookie to basically unseat that veteran that you just signed to a contract, that's ballsy, it's gutsy, and again, you better be right. And look, I like Mitchell Trubisky. I thought he was the best quarterback in this draft class. So I don't have a problem with the selection. You know my mantra. You know my motto. If it's your guy, get your guy when you feel the need to get your guy. They felt like they needed to come up. Okay, the 49ers threatened them and told them, look, we got other suitors, other teams that are willing to come up. What are you willing to do to get your guy at number 2? Bears had to come up and give up a slew of picks in order to do so. But nonetheless, if Mitchell Trubisky is the guy that you think he is, if he's the quarterback that you have perceived him to be, okay, obviously this organization came together as a whole. This was not just Ryan Pace going rogue, but again, heads will roll if Mitchell Trubisky turns out to be a bust. But if he is in fact the guy that can bring prominence back to the Windy City in Chicago, as the lead dog under the center at the quarterback position, this will be one of the best trades made in recent memory in the NFL draft. And Ryan Pace will be highly regarded as one of the best GMs for making shrewd moves in the draft. But if this does not work out, this will be one of the most ridiculed drafts moves in recent memory. And Ryan Pace will no longer be the Bears GM. I can assure you of that. And with the rest of this draft, taking a bunch of smaller school guys, Ryan Pace better. I've said this before. This will be the last time I say this. Ryan Pace better be right. But I like Mitchell Trubisky. I like the move. I like the quarterback. I like the pick. I don't love what you did to Mike Glennon. I don't love that. But I love the player. I love the pick. I love the move. If you're right. In the first round, second overall selection, North Carolina quarterback Mitchell Trubisky is hit hard. He's hit deep. You can put him on the board. Yeah, it's a home run for the Chicago Bears in the first round. Look, this is a quarterback-driven league. Either you got one or you don't. Look, the perception is now you got 2. Now, the prevailing thought is Mitchell Trubisky is going to end up starting most likely year 1. Now, Ryan Pace has come out and said, look, Mike Glennon is still our starting quarterback, and he had to go out. They did him dirty. They invited him out to the draft party only to go up and do what they did. It was foul, okay? It was dirty. There's no other way to say it. But if you're smart, if you're the Bears, you let Mike Glennon start year 1. If he plays well, maybe you can trade him, okay? Maybe you can still get something and salvage this thing. And then you bring Mitchell Trubisky in and you see what you got. But who knows? We'll see how this thing unfolds. Maybe Mitchell Trubisky starts day 1. If I'm the Bears, I'm going to let him sit. That's why you got Mike Glennon. At least that's the thought process, is you got a guy that can still start and allow the young fella to learn. We'll see what happens. One thing's for sure, you better not put him out there and expose him too early, because you did a lot to go get him. You better make sure you handle this whole situation, and more importantly, you handle him correctly and surround him with enough talent that when you insert him, he can succeed. You go to the second round, 45th overall selection, Ashland tight end Adam Shaheen is the selection. This was a high riser, a fast riser in this draft, a guy that came seemingly out of nowhere right around the extracurricular bowl games and games for seniors, the Senior Bowl, all those things. This is one of those guys that jumped off the screen in those Shrine games. And as the combine came, a lot of people were intrigued by him. And he went out and he proved that he was legit at the combine, and then further drove that point home at his pro day. So Adam Shaheen was a quick and heavy riser in this draft. And he rose all the way to the second round. Let's talk about him. 6'6", 278 pounds. Yes, indeed. Massive size is the first pro. I don't really need to explain to you what 6'6", 278 looks like and how big this guy truly is at the tight end position. When you see guys that size, generally you're thinking, we're bringing in another tackle as an eligible to block in a 3 tight end set. That's what he looks like on the field, except this guy can actually run and catch the football instead of just being in to primarily block. Tremendous athlete, okay? At 6'6", 278, and I'm probably gonna mention that at least 3 or 4 more times because that is huge. That is a huge human being right there. But the things that he can do at that size makes him a special athlete, which is why he rose to the second round. 4'7", 40, and again, keep that in perspective that he's 6'6", 280 pounds. Keep that in the back of your mind when I tell you this man runs a 4'7", 32.5-inch vert. Is that great? No, but for a guy that's 6'6", 280, you damn right that's a tremendous vertical leap. And finally, he's got a 10-1 broad, which shows the explosiveness and his ability to get up the field. He's an ex-b-baller. You always love tight ends with an ex-basketball background because that is something that shows you the athleticism. Normally, they're going to have soft hands. They're going to know how to box guys out when they're going up for the football. A basketball background is usually a huge plus for a tight end. That's no different here with Ashland tight end Adam Shaheen. He's a strong guy at 6'6", 278 again. When you hear a guy tossing up 225 at 6'6", 280, 24 times, it tells you that this is a strong individual. Again, sometimes when you hear a guy tossing up the iron, 34 times and he's 6'1", 310 pounds, you're like, okay, guy's got short arms. But this is a guy here that has long arms. We're talking about 33.5-inch arms, which was my next pro, outstanding catch radius. It's a guy with long arms. So him pushing up 225, 24 times lets you know this is a guy that is filling out that frame and is extremely well put together. And it's not just his size, but he's actually a strong guy out on the football field, and it translates. That outstanding catch radius is going to help with the next pro that I'm about to elaborate on, which is he's a huge red zone target, okay? When you're 6'6", 280, you've got a good athleticism and vertical leap, and you got a basketball background, and your catch radius is large because you've got 33.5-inch arms. It helps you dominate the competition at Ashland, where you had 26 touchdowns in just 2 seasons, okay? That is phenomenal output. And again, that's what you expect from a guy his size playing at a smaller school. I only have one prerequisite for small school guys: dominate the competition. 26 touchdowns in 2 seasons. I'd say that's pretty much domination over the competition. He's got good hands. That's the next pro. I feel good about him catching the football, really soft hands. And again, that basketball background coming into play, really soft hands to really caress the rock and catch it. You see him catch the football on a consistent basis when you turn on the tape. Only saw him drop the football one time, and it was in a monsoon. And in the past, had some hot sauce to go on it. So I feel really confident in his ability to squeeze the pigskin and come down with the rock when you throw it in his general direction. He's a gifted route runner. For a guy 6'6", 278, he's not going to blow past many guys, okay? Keep in mind, this is a league where the athletes are so abundant. They're at every position now. These defensive tackles are getting faster and faster. It's becoming scary how fast even the 300-pounders are now. So 4.79, not going to blow anybody away. But when you run the routes the way that he does, it's going to allow him to separate. And again, he doesn't need much separation with his frame, the way that it's carved out. He doesn't need a lot of separation, okay? The quarterback's got a nice, big, inviting target to throw the football to. And then you add to the fact that this guy is creating separation with his ability to run routes, and you feel like you got yourself a winner here with Adam Shaheen. His pass pro, I think it's A1. I think he does a great job in it. 6'6", 278. He's a guy that, like I said, he's like another tackle on the field. I watched him in pass pro. Now, again, granted, take everything with a grain of salt. We're talking about him playing at Ashland, okay? So he's dominating 6'1" middle linebackers who are, or not even 6'1", 5'9" middle linebackers who are 205 pounds. He's dominating edge rushers that are 6'2", 220 pounds. So keep that stuff in mind. Not all of these guys are going to be shrimps, okay? I don't want to over exaggerate and really go overboard. There are some legit guys in front of him at times, but again, no NFL talent to speak of that he's blocking. But again, he was holding his own. That's all you can do is block the guy they put in front of you. And he did that on a consistent basis when in pass pro. He's a willing run blocker. I think he can improve in that aspect of his game. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But as far as him being a run blocker, he's willing to stick his face in his helmet and face mask in the chest of a defender, literally. And that's all you can ask for with a guy his size, is that he's willing to go out and do the dirty work. And that is exactly what Adam Shaheen is willing to do. And finally, formational flexibility. This is a guy that lined up just about everywhere you could imagine, as he should have at Ashland. Lined up out wide as a flanker, lined up in the slot at tight end. He detached as a U at the tight end position in the slot. He lined up tight to the line in a traditional Y. He also lined up in the backfield as a H-back. So this guy was everywhere, okay? Everywhere, okay? So formational flexibility, as you see all the time with these tight ends, you get in that with Adam Shaheen as well. So you go from his pros to some of his cons. To me, I look at him similar size in terms of height. The weight is way up. You're talking about a guy that's literally basically 30 pounds heavier than that of O.J. Howard. But if you ask me, this is O.J. Howard with an extra 30 pounds, okay? Now, O.J. Howard is a much better athlete, obviously, which is why he went in the first round. Shaheen goes in the second. But if you're talking about movement skills, they both run routes the same to me. Really good route runners. They both catch the football exceptionally well. They both block really well. I think O.J. Howard run blocks a little bit better than Shaheen does, but I think Shaheen has the potential to block better than O.J. Howard when it's all said and done. Has a bigger frame. O.J.'s a much better athlete. I think I might have already mentioned that, but we know that to be the case. O.J. Howard is running a 4.5 40 essentially, whereas Shaheen's running basically a 4.8. But I mean, you're talking about 30 pounds in difference, which is to really attribute to that. But both of them have, I said all of that to say this. Both of them have mechanical movement skills. When you're that tall, when you're that big, it's hard for you to just be fluid as an athlete. O.J. Howard, I said the same thing about him. Feel like he has mechanical movement skills. I feel the same way about Shaheen, but again, I'm being hypercritical here. It doesn't stop him from getting open. It doesn't stop him from winning. And so his movement skills are fine. I told you he was a gifted route runner. I watched him put a double move on a guy up in the red zone, got him wide open, undressed that safety, got wide open, caught a touchdown. So even though his movement skills are mechanical-like, to me, it doesn't stop him from winning. You know, a lot of people like to compare him to Gronk because of the size and his movement skills. That's going to be one of those comparisons that you hear, baby Gronk, this, that, and the third. But this guy is legit, folks. Run blocking refinement is the next con. He can get better as a run blocker. I think a lot of times he doesn't see what he's blocking. Hard to block what you don't see. Puts his head down and is looking to block. I've also heard stories of guys talking about how when upon contact they close their eyes and it leads to holding penalties. He's one of those guys that I think he just needs to refine his blocking skills, get better hand placement, get better movement with his feet, things of that nature. He'll be just fine. I told you he's willing to block. He's got the size to do it. I think he'll be just fine at the next level. You get with your tight ends coach and he shows him the finer points of how to get it done at an efficient level. And I think he'll be just fine as a run blocker. And finally, this is the requisite level of competition complaint. I'm not going to go into explicit detail because I talk about this all the time. I don't want to beat the kid up for going to Ashland. It is what it is. He thought he was going to be a basketball player. And a year into playing basketball, he realizes I'm probably going to be better off playing football, transfers, plays football for 2 years, and lights it up. So I don't have anything to say about his level of competition other than you want to see him make the jump from Ashland to the NFL and make it seamlessly. You want to see him adjust to the speed of the game, the physicality, all of those things. But at 6'6", 280 pounds, I don't think that's going to be that much of a problem for Adam Shaheen. In the second round, 45th overall selection, Ashland tight end Adam Shaheen for me is a triple. I think the Bears did the right thing here. You got a young quarterback, whether it's going to be Glennon or Trubisky, and we know it's going to be Trubisky at some point, whether it's in 2017 or beyond. You want your young quarterback to have as many targets to get the football to. There's nothing more comforting than a big time tight end target to get the rock to. You signed Deion Sims in the offseason. Now you get another huge target. Sims is like 6'6", 6'7" himself. Add Shaheen to the mix at 6'6", 280. Now you look around with some of these receiver targets and you add these tight ends to the mix. You got plenty of guys to get the rock to for your quarterback, whomever that guy is under the center. You move on to the next pick for the Bears in this draft. 4th round, 112th overall selection. Alabama safety Eddie Jackson is the selection. 6 feet, 201 pounds, solid size. That's the first pro. NFL safeties, much like corners, much like receivers, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. 6 feet, 201 pounds, not the biggest NFL safety, but it's more than adequate to get the job done. He's got solid athleticism. I don't think he's a speed demon. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But you can see the athleticism, especially when he has the football in his hands. He turns into an athlete, okay? And those guys are scary because they can make things happen. They can create. We'll talk about that with Eddie Jackson a little bit later on. But we didn't get to see him run. We don't know times. We can't put times to what he does. But I'm telling you right now, I look at Eddie Jackson, I see a guy running a 4.58, a 4.61 type of 40. I don't see a guy that's out there hauling ass, but I do see a guy that has extreme athleticism, agility, and that speed is just fine, okay? He's not out there running a 4.45 like some of these top flight safeties that we saw come off the board early in this draft, but I think he's got adequate speed to get the job done. And where he lacks in speed, he makes up with the next pro, instincts. And if you're not going to be extremely fast, instincts come into play and they are paramount. And he's a guy that I think has good instincts, which takes him to the football. And you don't make plays on the ball if you're lacking speed, if you don't have instincts. And it helps to just be around the action. And instincts is going to help you do that. Okay, you may arrive to the party just slightly late, but if you get there in time enough after the cornerback deflects the football into the air, guess what? You get the reward of picking it off. If you've got great coverage and your corners are holding it down and the quarterback tries to fit it into a tight space and he airmails it and you've got the instincts to be over there in coverage where you're supposed to be, guess what? You get rewarded like he did against Western Kentucky when the quarterback airmailed the ball right to Eddie Jackson, who picks it off and runs it back for a 55-yard touchdown. These are the types of plays that he makes because he's got instincts. So I think he's really solid in that department, as well as tackling. He's a solid tackler. He's not going to overwhelm you with how he comes down and lays the wood. He doesn't lay the wood. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But he gets guys on the ground. And for me, at the safety position, generally, that's all I care about is you getting guys on the ground. Ball skills might be one of the best traits Eddie Jackson brings to the table, along with him just being a playmaker, which we'll talk about here in a second. But 9 INTs in his career, 6 of them in 2015. He was phenomenal in 2015 and was playing well in 2016 before the injury. We'll talk about that later as well. And 3 of those 9 career INTs went for touchdowns. So this is a guy that when he gets the football in his hands, turns into a return man and a dangerous one at that. Speaking of which, versatility is the next pro. You're talking about a guy that can play the safety position. You can drop him over the slot. And if you drop him over the slot, he can play man or he can play zone. There was a beautiful play that really shows off really what Eddie Jackson is as a defender. If you go to the national championship game, not in 2016 because he didn't participate, remember he injured himself, but in 2015, in that same national championship game versus Clemson, he baits Deshaun Watson into a pick. So it's man-to-man coverage. They're running a wheel route in that concept up the sideline with the running back out of the backfield. And Eddie Jackson is checking the tight end. He sags off the tight end as he's reading Deshaun Watson's eyes, sags and falls back under the wheel route. Deshaun Watson, probably if he sees Jackson, puts air on it. Instead, he throws it on the line because he thinks that that running back who is winning against the linebacker has an open lane. And Eddie Jackson, eyes on the quarterback, sags underneath, picks off the football. So zone, man, it doesn't matter. This guy is very good at going and getting the football, has tremendous ball skills and versatility. So you go to his special teams value, and this is a guy that had 2 punt returns for touchdowns in 2016. Again, was having a phenomenal 2016 campaign before the injury. And it's that value there that adds to the mix, along with his ability to be a safety and play a little bit of slot for you. That's going to add to his value, and which is why he gets selected in the 4th round despite coming off of an injury. And finally, playmaker in general is the last pros. He's a playmaker. 5 career touchdowns. I talked about the 9 career interceptions and 3 of them going back for touchdowns. I talked about the 2 punt returns. You put them together, that's 5 touchdowns for a guy that doesn't play offense. That's phenomenal. And he's a general on the field. He's lining everybody up. He's barking out calls and getting everybody where they're supposed to be, making sure everyone's on one accord on the defense. Love that about Eddie Jackson as well. So you go from his pros to his cons. To me, he takes poor angles, and for a guy that is lacking in the speed department, he's not a speed demon. You can't take poor angles, and the next con that goes with that is marginal speed. I don't know exactly what his speed is, so I don't want to sit here and act as if I know this guy runs a 4.65. But I'm telling you on tape, I can tell that he's not gonna burn you and blaze you with his speed, but he does have enough. But again, you don't have enough to take poor angles. And in that same Clemson game that he picked Deshaun Watson off in 2015 in the national championship game, he helped give up a touchdown. And remember, they were getting torched early in that game by the receiver. His name escapes me, but it was the white guy that was killing them early in that game. And he runs a deep pattern, and Watson hits him. And Eddie Jackson is supposed to be helping over the top. He takes a poor angle. He gets there slightly late. Watson drops it in for about a 45-yard touchdown over the top. And that's what happens with Eddie Jackson sometimes. And even in the run game, I think he takes some poor angles. There's a run against USC, first game of the season in 2016, where he takes a poor angle and gives up a huge run in that game. Late in that ball game, they had the game well in hand, but still giving up a big run. If he comes up, fills the hole like he's supposed to, that run doesn't exist. But he takes a poor angle, gives up a big run to Jones late in that game. So I think he's one of those guys that will take some poor angles at times. He's not a tone-setting safety. And what I mean by that is he's not going to come and blow anybody up. He's looking to make the big kill shot now. He didn't wrap up enough for me. He likes to come and lower his shoulder as if he's a big, physical, 225-pound imposing, physical, hammer-bringing safety, but he's not. Okay, Eddie Jackson is the type of guy that on 3rd and 2 meets the running back, and that running back, if he's 220 pounds, is going to drag Eddie Jackson's ass for 3 yards and pick up the first down. Okay, I watched Eddie Jackson hold on for dear life on several tackle attempts as guys drug him aimlessly for 2 and 3 extra yards until help arrived. So Eddie Jackson is not a tone-setting safety, yet in his mind he thinks he is, and he likes to run up and give guys shoulders. And I'm telling you, at the next level, guys are gonna bounce off those shoulders. You better make and practice the habit of wrapping guys up and getting them down, because to me, he's not a tone-setting safety. He's not a guy that's gonna talk softly but carry a big stick. He just needs to get guys on the ground. And finally, injury concerns. Tore his ACL in 2014, but he did not miss games from that torn ACL, or actually, he was able to come back in 2014. He tore it in the spring of 14, was able to come back and basically play in every single game. So kudos to him for that. And in 2016, on a punt return versus Texas A&M, he breaks his leg. It was an awkward looking play. He goes down, gets up, comes off the field, but never returns. And we later find out, broken bone in his leg. He's done for the season. So hopefully you'll get Eddie Jackson back in camp, and he'll be able to perform for you, because the Bears haven't had good safety play since, dare I say, like 2003 and Mike Brown at the safety position. It's been ages since they've been able to fix that position. This is maybe the guy that will help you turn it around. I actually like Adrian Amos. I think Eddie Jackson would be a great compliment, and maybe you'll be able to put something on the field that is representative of what the Bears have stood for defensively in the past. Physical, good playing at the safety position. We'll see if you can get that back with a guy like Eddie Jackson teaming up with Adrian Amos in the 4th round, 112th overall selection. Alabama safety Eddie Jackson for me is a double. It would have been a triple if this guy was healthy, but him coming off of another leg injury, I don't know what you're going to get out of him. And because of that fact, I just couldn't bring myself to give him a triple, because I love the fact that not only is he a safety, but he could potentially double as a return guy for you. And it's that kind of versatility that really lends me to saying that this is a triple, but I can't off of the injury. I just don't know what Eddie Jackson you're going to get, and because of that, he's a double. You move on to the next pick in the draft for the Bears. Another 4th rounder, 119th overall, North Carolina A&T running back Tariq Cohen is the selection. Man, was his tape fun to watch or what? First pro is explosive and dynamic ability. He's a 4.42 guy, and you see it on tape. He makes a ton of guys miss. You just never know where he's going to go, because no play is safe with Tariq Cohen in the game with the football in his hands. He's a game-changing, game-breaking type of player, and he lit the MEAC conference up. That is for certain. True home run threat is the next pro. What more can I say? He's a true home run threat in every sense of the word. He's the type of guy that in the blink of an eye can take a game and blow it out of proportion. It doesn't take much. His team could be down 21-0, and in the blink of an eye, it's 21-7. He touches it again, and next thing you know, it's 21-14, and they're back in the game. He's got that kind of ability. One touch is all it takes for him to make a house call, and so he's got true home run threat ability in every sense of the word. Eye-popping agility is the next pro. They call him the human joystick for a reason. All right, we haven't heard that term since back in the late 90s, early 2000s with Kansas City Chiefs return man Dante Hall. And remember the moves that he used to make, returning kicks? Well, Tariq Cohen is similar in his ability to stop, start, change directions without losing speed. To me, that is the epitome of ultimate agility and ability in terms of dynamic ability to make guys miss out of space, is how quickly you can stop and start and change directions and get back to top speed. And even better, making sharp cuts seamlessly without losing speed. That's why Marshall Faulk was one of the best when he played, is because he could stop, cut, and dance on you and not lose stride. I mean, he could literally, if he was making a cut, Marshall Faulk could cut and in stride make that cut and never lose stride and keep running. And so Tariq Cohen is another one of those types of players. Tremendous vision. You don't make the types of plays that he made on a consistent basis without having tremendous vision, because guys like him see the cut before they happen. He's 2 moves ahead of the defender, and in order to do that, you have to see the field and all of it in its splendor. You have to have tremendous vision, see everything in order to make moves, 2 moves before it is necessary. So his vision is tremendous. Pass catching ability, that makes him dangerous on the football field. It's one thing if you got to hand the guy the rock in order for him to make a difference. It's another thing when a guy with that kind of ability gets out of space. Just can you imagine him having his way with a linebacker one-on-one? It reminds a lot of people of Darren Sproles. And when you look at him and his stature, that's exactly who he reminds me of Darren Sproles, a guy that you hold your breath every time he gets a one-on-one matchup with a linebacker, with the safety, because that guy's not safe. Out in space, a couple of shimmies, sticks his foot in the ground, and all of a sudden, he's leaving that linebacker in his wake. And he's got that kind of ability. He can catch the football. He's got good hands. He's going to be a really big addition to this Bears offense because of his ability to hit home runs, make guys miss, but also his ability to catch the football out of the backfield. And then finally, his collegiate production, over 5,600 yards, 60 touchdowns. I mean, what are we talking about here, guys? I mean, this guy was a machine for the Aggies of North Carolina A&T. Lit the MEAC conference up, left with the most rush yards in conference history. Those 60 touchdowns, I would imagine, have to be up there really high, if not the most ever in that conference as well. I mean, 60 touchdowns, that is amazing production. He lit it up in FCS. That is for certain. Was one of the best players in FCS last season and really throughout his career. You go to his cons, his size, 5'6", 179 pounds. He can't take a beating. You don't want him touching the football an absurd amount of times, but make no mistake about it, he needs to have his fair share of touches. And he got the rock a ton at North Carolina A&T, but this is not North Carolina A&T. This is not the MEAC. This is not FCS football. This is the NFL. Guys are bigger, faster, stronger. You do not want Tariq Cohen at 5'6", 179 to touch the rock in abundance of times, but he needs his 7 to 10 to 13 to 15 touches a game. He's so dynamic. You want him to touch it as many times as possible without putting him at risk. If you're the Bears, a lot of negative plays. That's the next con. When you break as many tackles as he does, just like Barry Sanders in his prime, when you make as many guys miss, you always feel like you can hit the home run. You always feel like if I can make this next guy miss, maybe I got to go backwards another 3 yards to make this next guy miss. But if I can make him miss, I might be able to turn the corner, or I might be able to make this play from a 3-yard loss into a 33-yard gain. And in those plays, you're going to lose some. You're going to take some L's. When a guy is making 3 and 4 guys miss on the play, or he's bouncing something outside that he probably should have just put his head down and gotten what was there, you're going to take some L's, and he's a guy that will have some losses on some plays. No special teams experience. That was pretty disappointing to know that he hadn't fielded a punt or ran any kickoffs back at North Carolina A&T. But again, when you're the lead dog, when you're all they have on offense, especially at the running back position, you can't afford to have this guy also be your kickoff return man, your punt return guy. He was too important to them offensively. But you would have loved to have seen him. But that's not to say he can't learn. I mean, the guy can catch. He can field kickoffs and punts. I have an inkling that the Bears are going to ask him to do that because he's so dynamic. You want him doing that if you're the Chicago Bears. And then finally, level of competition, just like I did with Adam Shaheen. I got to throw that in there. It's a necessary evil. But again, his speed, his ability to make guys miss, all of that stuff, that agility, it all translates to the next level. That's not something that you worry about, oh, can he run? He's 4'4", 240. Yeah, he can run past linebackers and safeties and defensive linemen and corners. He's got the speed to hit the home run. That doesn't change. That stuff translates. So, yeah, the level of competition. He didn't see many NFL players in the MEAC, but it doesn't matter. This guy's going to perform. When he gets the football in his hand, he is dangerous. That is for certain. In the 4th round, 119th overall selection, North Carolina A&T running back Tariq Cohen for me is a triple, man. This guy's going to impact your team right a way, whether it's on special teams. And I got a feeling that the Bears are going to say, hey, look, man, we're going to need you to return some kicks, possibly punts as well. You may not ask them to do punts, but kickoffs, I think that they would be remiss if they didn't put him back there and at least explore that with Tariq Cohen. And I think this is a guy that in third down situations, you saw what Jordan Howard came in and did for you as a rookie. I think Tariq Cohen could have a similar impact as a third down back for you in that Bears offense. You may even use him as a change of pace back. I don't know. You've got Langford. You've got Jordan Howard. Tariq Cohen, I think you're going to add him to the mix, and this guy's going to be a playmaker for you in his rookie season. And finally, your final pick of your draft. Again, only 5 players, very concise and to the point draft. 5th round, 147th overall selection. Kutztown offensive lineman Jordan Morgan is the selection. 6'3", 309-pound offensive lineman, was a left tackle at Kutztown. So his size is adequate, but he's going to have to kick inside the guard. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he's got great length. And this is why he was able to live out on the edge at Kutztown. 35-inch arms at 6'3". You don't generally hear that, okay? A guy that's 6'3" usually has 32, 31-inch arms. This guy's got 35-inch arms. And technically, he's like 6'2" and 5'8". He's not even 6'3" technically. So that's huge length for a guy that's not even 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". So there are 6'5", 6'6" guys with 33-inch arms. This guy's got 35-inch arms. So he's got vines, folks. Great movement skills. This was a guy that came to Kutztown as a 235-pound offensive lineman. So that tells you all you need to know about his movement skill. He still moves around like he's 235 pounds. And you can see that he's a 240-pound or so guy trapped in a 300-pounder's body. So he moves very well. We'll talk about the downside to that, however, a little bit later on. But he's a physical mauler. That's the next pro. Again, take everything with a grain of salt when you're talking about these smaller school guys. Yeah, he's destroying and devouring 6'2", 230-pound defensive ends. They're trying their hardest, bless their heart, but they're 6'1", 210 pounds, and he's eating them alive. All right, he's pushing guys around. He's dumping them on their neck. He's pancaking them, extra little syrup on top. I mean, he was absolutely destroying. I watched him play after play, caving in the left side of the line. He would literally take the defensive end, push him into the tackle, and cave in aside, and they were just running the ball down the throat of their opponent, and they were running it right behind Jordan Morgan, and he was absolutely dominant. Devastating punch. I watched him hit a guy in his chest as he was rushing up the field and knocked him back about 3 yards. Okay, again, take it with a grain of salt. The guy wasn't that huge, but again, it still counts for something because a devastating punch is a devastating punch. Will he knock a defensive end at the National Football League level back 3 yards? Probably not. But will that punch negate a guy rushing up the field? Yeah, you damn right it will. So those 35-inch arms coming with the force and having that length and having a devastating punch all bodes well for a guy like Jordan Morgan at the next level. Creates a new line of scrimmage again. I don't want to beat a horse dead, but he was driving guys back 3, 4, 5 yards. Like I said, he was moving guys against their will. But again, it was Division II. It was Kutztown, Pennsylvania. Okay, take it for what it's worth. Anchors well. I didn't see guys bull rushing him. He stood his ground, and those are all things you like to see. And then finally, he's a 4-year starter with tremendous upside. I don't think he's at his best. I don't think he's at his peak. I don't think he's hit his full stride yet as an offensive lineman. And we're going to talk about why with these cons. Let's jump into some of them. Overextends with his punch. He lunges sometimes. He's so anxious to get his hands on people. Look, bro, you got 35-inch arms. You don't have to overextend. You don't have to lunge. Just get in your stance, have your posture, and then extend those arms and win. And so those are all fine-tuned technique things that you get to the next level, you get some coaching. I think he'll be just fine in that realm. But he's got balance issues, and I think this stems from a guy that's still learning how to adjust to used to being 235 pounds, and now he's 303 pounds. Over 4 years at Kutztown, or 5 years at Kutztown, this is a guy that made the transformation from, skinny high school kid that just started playing football to a guy that became a monster and one of the best players in Division II football. And so sometimes he's not accustomed to that frame, and he gets off balance. And you see a guy that's on the ground and he's kind of falling all over himself a little bit. And so he has some balance issues, not something that can't be fixed. I think his equilibrium could be a little bit better. And I think they'll work with him to have better balance, better footwork to where he's not falling all over the place at the next level. Transition to guard. That's a big one because he can't play tackle at 6'3". Now, the 35-inch arms suggest otherwise, but 6'3", you're not going to be able to play tackle at the next level. And so he's going to have to kick inside the guard. And if that's the case, can he make, because it's a different world. It's a different animal inside than outside. Different angles, different things you're going to be asked to do. When you're outside, you're on your own island. You're not looking for help. When you're inside, there are different responsibilities. So can you make that transition from tackle at Kutztown for 4 years to guard at the next level? I assume so, but will it be seamless? That's the question I have. A lot of people are comparing him to Jari Evans, the longtime beast in New Orleans protecting Drew Brees. He's got a similar frame, comes from a similar small school background. Jordan Morgan looks the part. And find the level of competition again. I've said that at least 3 or 4 times in this draft, but that's what happens when you take smaller school guys. This is a guy that played at Kutztown, Division II football. How does he make that leap from going up against, guys that looked like they were playing in high school to the NFL, where it's just all grown men every single week? So we'll see what he does. But I like Jordan Morgan. I think he's a guy that's going to be a developmental prospect for you. And I think you may have something here because the guy loves football. He's physical. He's tough. He's a bad man. He's got a nasty disposition to him. I like what he brings to the table, man. He finished his blocks. He's dumping guys on their head. He's just pancaking guys, laying on top of them. He's a physical dude. And so I think that there's a place in the league for guys like Jordan Morgan in the 5th round, 147th overall selection. Kutztown offensive lineman Jordan Morgan for me is a double. I want to see how he makes the transition from tackle to guard, how he adjusts to the new breed of beasts that are going to be in front of him. You're no longer dealing with a 230-pound defensive end. You're now dealing with a 265-pound defensive end that's really, really strong, just like you. I want to see how he makes that transition. And so I want to see how he adjusts to all the things that will be coming at him at a very rapid rate at the next level. But that's the Bears draft in a nutshell. Only 5 selections. When you make the kind of trade that they made at the top of the draft to get their quarterback, it's going to abbreviate your draft, and that's what it did. Let's quickly go through the scores. You get a home run in Mitchell Trubisky, 1st round pick, make the trade, and it's a big one. It's going to really, to me, it's going to tell us the story of the Chicago Bears over the next 5 to 7 years. If this team is struggling and they don't have a quarterback, we'll know why, because of the 2017 NFL draft and the move to go and get Mitchell Trubisky with the 2nd overall pick. Adam Shaheen is a triple for me, as well as Tariq Cohen. So you got 2 triples in this draft, and you got 2 doubles. Eddie Jackson would have been another triple, but he's coming off of an injury, and I need to know what you're getting out of Eddie Jackson when he comes back. And Jordan Morgan, a developmental offensive lineman out of Kutztown. Lot of small school guys. 3 of them out of your 5 picks are smaller school guys. We'll see how this works out for the Chicago Bears, but it's a home run, 2 triples, which is 13, 2 more doubles, which is 10, and then 2 more doubles, which is 14. You divide by 5, that's a 2.8 double. It's a small sample size, so with no bonuses, that score is reflective of a draft that was abbreviated. And I really feel like teams that don't have at least 6 selections need to be penalized, and so a 2.8 sounds about right for this Bears team. But this could end up being a hell of a draft, because I really think that I'm looking at 4 guys that could really, really come in and help the Bears in year 1 on a roster that I thought last year was one of the least talented teams in the league. And after looking at what they did in the draft, this year you're adding to a roster that I think you improved in the offseason. Now, I think you've got some stuff, but we're going to see how that move at the top of your draft, which is really going to tell the story of this particular draft, works out for you in Chicago. Ryan Pace, good luck. You're going to need it. That's going to do it for the Chicago Bears in their 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. I just got one question for you, okay? Who's next?